Can we just be silent the whole show?
Right? I think we are there. Okay, let's see if you echo.
Do I echo?
Do you echo? Do you
Do
echo?
I echo? Echo,
Starting the recording, we'll see. Now do you echo?
echo, echo, echo. Is
Echo,
there an
echo
echo?
one day. My grandma.
My grandma and your grandma
No
sitting
echo
by.
today.
What? It's a whole
No
new
echo
era.
today. But we also, oh, and we have someone in
Nikki!
the
Hi,
room.
cutie pie.
Nikki. All right. No echo and someone in the room. I think we're ready to go. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
To be honest, like I'm not having a great day, but you made me laugh. You told me dick jokes and we sorted out your complicated scenario. And now I'm in a little bit better of a mood. I don't feel that heaviness in my chest I was feeling before. So thank you for your service. And yeah, ready to go here with you.
I'm happy to be of service. How is the City of Angels treating you?
City of Angels mostly like is fine. It is pretty much how it always is. It's just like the familial situation is heavy, right? Yeah, and
Is
I'm
it
like,
rules being imposed by the
no,
partner?
like there's nothing wrong like that. Like, well, first of all, I spent the morning at Kaiser with my father.
Mm,
Um, and there was the satisfaction of his doctor, who generally I'm completely opposed to anything, sort of conventional medical or whatever it is. But in this particular case, the doctor told him exactly what I had been lecturing him about this morning. And so there was like a deep sense of satisfaction and gratification, right? Because like it's that Captain Obvious that even someone who like theoretically I'm diametrically opposed to can see the forest for the trees. So there was that, but just that's difficult. But we're here and we're like I'm spending a good amount of time with my dad this year trying to he has a lot of stuff. Like a lot of stuff from his mom and a lot of his own stuff. And we're trying to like it's an immense project and we're trying to like get somewhere on it and it's like it's pretty challenging.
do you mean physical possessions?
Yes.
Got it.
Right? And so it's challenging and it just brings up all kinds of, old stuff and whatnot. And I'm trying to sort of get to the place where like I'm more honest with people about like how I'm really feeling about things and what I am willing to do and what I'm not willing to do and like respect that they're an individual with struggles but also that so am I and like this is okay for me and this is not okay for me and trying to do all of that sort of diplomatically and whatnot is at times challenging, right? And then also like he still has trouble standing up. I can do it, but he can't do it from like the bed in the room he usually sleeps at when he's here, right?
Mhm.
So I'm having to sleep in that bed, which doesn't make my back feel good. So all of that. But
All of those fun
it's
things.
okay. I love my daddy, so it's all right. Yeah.
It's,
And
I see this in people. It's like a generational thing. Like growing up in our house, there was like the special china that was inherited from the grandmothers that like no one ever used. It just
right,
sat in a cabinet, but we're supposed to keep it as like some precious special thing forever and ever.
right,
But why? And I think of things that like like my mom's pearls, or she gave me this diamond watch, and I'm like, I hate them. I'm never gonna wear any of these, but I was told like never sell those, and I'm like, what? So I just have to schlep them around forever? Like, what's the point? And then my grandfather's Masonic ring is the one thing that I actually want. No one in the family will part with it, but no one wears it, looks at it, gives a fuck. It's just because I want it, I can't have it.
right. Yeah. So I was trying to explain to my father, I was trying to keep it like really like neutral and like a general conversation about like the way the world is evolving. Like people just don't want so many things anymore. Like people are really much more interested in having less stuff and having more like experiences that then they can document and put in their on their phone or in computers. They're
Right.
trying to digitize libraries, right? They want as little like large physical stuff really as possible. And then also just that like there isn't this reverence for family heirlooms that are passed down the way that there used to be, especially like maybe a few pieces of jewelry, but china, silverware, art, pianos, things like that. Like
Right.
most people like can only afford a 400 square foot apartment. And so if you have like a baby grand piano in it, that pretty much is
Right.
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 And so, but like I think, and I get like it's on one level, like, you know, my father is probably more nostalgic and more inclined to hang on to things than the average person. But the other thing is just a generational thing where like there were some things that you just didn't get rid of. You didn't just toss them. You found someone who wanted them. They have value. They meant something to someone. So like I can obviously intellectually I can respect all of that. But I was trying to explain to him like the issue with like if something that there's something that like I don't want, my sister doesn't want, and whatnot, and there's no it's not like of very much value, right? So working to try and sell it, like if there's something you could get $100 for, but it takes you 10 hours of work to do it, that doesn't make sense. And if the point is to like get it to someone who's going to appreciate it, so maybe like donating it to someone who appreciates that kind of book or that kind of art, but you have to go out and find who and what that place is, and then probably pay for the transportation of it there yourself and all that kind of stuff. It just becomes like really burdensome in reality, in a like world where like life already feels like super burdensome, right?
Totally.
So trying to like navigate this conversation, keeping it like not making it personal, just keeping it like a general explanation about how the world is going,
Right.
right? You know, and then him just being like, well, that's nice, but going back to like the old story, right? So that it's been a day of that.
Aw, well, you're a good daughter, and
I'm a
your
good
dad's
daughter.
super lucky to have you.
Yeah. So anywho, my dad agreed to eat and drink a few things that he hasn't agreed to until now. So that was good. I guess that's what happens when me and his doctor agree on something. So,
Like
you
what?
well, so he doesn't like to drink water. And so he just only drinks tea, which is really bad for him. And everyone's told him to stop drinking tea. And I understand this desire to not drink water because I actually struggle to drink water. Like my body rejects it. And eventually I realized that my body rejects it because my body really likes minerals. It wants to hang on to all of its minerals. So when you drink plain water, you're actually diluting the concentration of minerals in your body. So I figured out that if I put minerals in my water, my body doesn't reject it and I can drink it. You actually need minerals to escort the water into the cells in the body. Otherwise, it just sits outside of them and makes you like bloated. So you're dehydrated and bloated and not actually hydrated, right? So I was explaining this to him and I was telling him, like, I take this like electrolyte thing. You might need something different because we're in totally different states of health, and blah, blah, blah. So after discussing it, me going through that spiel with the doctor basically agreeing. And he was like, asked my dad, he's like, do you like milk? And because like I was like, oh, that makes sense. Milk is kind of like water with minerals in it. In fact, when I drink certain mineral-y water, it almost tastes like milk. And my dad has agreed that he will drink milk. So I went and got like the best, cleanest, fanciest, most expensive A2 grass-fed milk that I could find for him to drink, and we'll see how that goes.
Did you pick up paleo cookies while you were at Erewhon?
I didn't go to Erewhon. There's no Erewhon in near in we went to Whole Foods, but I went to Erewhon the other day. I did not get paleo cookies.
Well, if you're looking for a birthday present to send your podcast partner, I would not say no to paleo cookies. But speaking of water, because as you said that, you watched me take a sip. My very favorite birthday present was a Mayu water structuring spinner.
Yeah.
Have you tasted that water?
No.
Ooh, there is such a notable difference. Actually, Sarah, who might be tuning into us now, she's the one who
Hi,
tuned
Sarah.
me into it,
How do you
turned me
spell
on.
Mayu? How do you spell it?
Mayu.
Okay.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you for the birthday wishes. Much appreciated. And it tastes like it is night and day how water tastes post Mayu structuring versus pre Mayu structuring. And I'm so happy that I got one. And water, it's like mwah, life elixir. It tastes so freaking good.
This thing?
That's the thing.
Okay. All right, I'll check it out. I mean, I've
Yum.
experienced with a variety of different kinds of things to do with my water, but just basically like my body doesn't like if the thing that I've been drinking for the last several months that has really helped me has like sodium and magnesium and potassium in it, and that seems to do the deal for me, right? But I
You
will
can also add minerals like fulvic
yeah, yeah,
minerals or whatnot, or just
yeah,
keep, I mean, I always keep crystals in my water as well.
yeah. So anyway, which paleo cookies do you like?
I like the Erewhon brand, and I actually even went onto their website seeing if I could order some,
Yeah.
but they don't ship them.
Can you, if you know what they look like, just tell me because I'm sure I'll go there again this week. So I'll be happy
Okay.
to send you a belated birthday present. Everybody, it was Dani's birthday yesterday. So if you haven't wished her a happy birthday yet, now's the time. And of course, she appreciates birthday presents called super chats as well. So
Yes, those are my favorite birthday presents.
all right, I'll check out that water. So I must admit that my politics and social culture watching time has been somewhat small this week. So, but I did manage to come up with a few juicy clips, and it sounds like you have as well. But it sounds like you've been on some of my beat this week, and so I'm glad because I haven't had a chance to check out my own beat. I've been traveling, and then let's just be honest, watching tennis all night because it's in Australia, right? Dude, the tennis
Good.
match the other night was so good. I stayed up all night to watch Djokovic Alcaraz, and you know that's a tight rivalry, and you know at the beginning of the match they were like, you know, father time catches up with everybody, right? And Djokovic hurt himself in the first set and lost it, and then came back and won the next three sets with like an absolute clinic. And then at the end of the match they're like, someone's held back father time, right? So it was an amazing, unfortunately it was a quarterfinal, so yeah, he's not done yet, but it was one of the best matches I've seen in a long time, and so dramatic because of the injury, right? He like ripped his groin on like the fourth or fifth game of the uh the match, but so he's known for this. He gets hurt and he gets pissed, and then he starts playing like like a wounded animal, which can be terrifying. So
Is it true that it's and PS, thank you guys all for the birthday wishes. It's super heartfelt, heartwarming, and thank you, Laner, for our first super chat. Much appreciated. Is it true that he uses the harmonic egg and it was the harmonic egg that allowed him to quantum leap his game?
So he uses, I mean, he's super like into the same stuff that we're into. He does all
Yeah.
the like that stuff. To me, it was a progression of things, right? So he won the Australian Open in like 2008 or 2009, and then didn't win another major for like two or three, probably 3 years. And you know, he was in that golden era of Federer and Nadal and him and Murray. So part of it was just that everybody was sort of at their peak then. But around 2010, like in 2009 and 2010, he was retiring from matches a lot, overheating, out of breath, trouble breathing, all that kind of stuff. And he went to a natural health practitioner, like similar kind of people that we go to. And that person convinced him to change his diet, and he stopped eating gluten and sugar, dairy, all that kind of stuff. And he showed up in 2011, an absolute monster, and went on like, an incredible tear. And over the years, he's just constantly trying new things. He's done the egg. He does all kinds of like radio. He's a big fan of Nikola Tesla, who's Serbian like he is. He looks into all of the energy devices. He does Wim Hof, right? Like he's a vegan, but it's really interesting why he's a vegan. It isn't in any way a moral or ethical thing for him. He has found that like he does better when he doesn't waste a lot of energy digesting things. So
Mm.
he tries to only eat things that don't use up a lot of energy to digest. And so he's constantly searching for the new thing, the next thing. He never stops trying to optimize, maximize. And then he's also just super intellectual. And so he brings that sort of chess mentality as well. So he's a physical beast, and and he's also constantly looking tactically. He just hired Andy Murray, who just retired, and Andy's one of the best tactical minds in tennis, right? And just to give him that extra little tiny edge, right? So Andy was one of his biggest rivals. So, but yeah, he's definitely into all of that stuff for sure.
Cool.
He goes and meditates at the Bosnian pyramids. You know, he does all the conscious breathing, all that kind of stuff, holotropic breathing. He does it all.
Oh, I cannot stand holotropic breathing.
I mean, he tries everything, right? And that'll be
Have
his
you
face.
done it?
No.
I always get the crab claw tetany hands from it.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm not. I mean,
I,
I'm sure all the breath stuff is awesome. It just tends to piss me off or make
I
me
don't, the breath
paralyzed.
stuff pisses me off. Like I like to hold my breath. Whenever somebody tells me I should breathe, I'm just like, don't tell me to breathe. Don't tell me to do yoga. Don't tell me to meditate. We'll be fine. Thank you.
Okay, I will never tell you those things.
All right. Where should we start, my friend?
I want to say I'm glad you picked the perfect week to take off because the sham show, like dark witchcraft, was so in full effect and annoying, and watching everyone have all these like extreme reactions to the inauguration just made me want even less to do with it. Although I will say I don't understand Melania's outfit. I thought she looked gorgeous as always. She's so beautiful, she's so elegant, but the hat that covered her eyes, there had to be a reason to, like, what was that about?
I didn't see her. I
I
think.
watched Donuts take on it, and he said it was like some like Saturnian send up,
I'm
but it,
looking.
it was a very
Oh yeah,
bizarre
I did see a picture of this. Okay.
choice. I mean, don't get me wrong, she pulled it off, she looked amazing, but it's just odd that you couldn't see her face,
It is interesting. Yeah, it's like
right?
right at the eye line. Here's one
Yes.
that's like at an angle so you can see it a little bit.
But you had to be coming from underneath
I wonder
to
if
see.
I wonder if like it was a black eye club thing and she was just trying to cover up the evidence.
That's what I was thinking, but then that this one that you're showing us now, it doesn't look, although maybe the top of the left eye.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like, yeah, like even in the ones where you can see her eyes a little bit, but I don't know. That is interesting. It is pretty weird.
I didn't watch it. I didn't really care, but that just caught, I was just like, yeah, I don't get that.
Well, it's fascinating to me as a person who just like doesn't care, right?
Totally.
I'm obviously, I arrived here on Monday and have been with someone who obviously does care the whole time. And so he's listening to news all the time. And it's been fascinating to like
Wait, to news or to news?
NPR, PBS,
Okay,
KCET.
so government issued propaganda.
Correct. But like the it's just literally like rewinding, playing the propaganda from 2016, 2020, 24, January 6th, Russiagate, like over and over. And he'll listen to like a different person tell the same story that the other person just said. And it's almost like I think have you and I did a show about it when you know what psychic driving is?
No.
It's like a mind control technique when they used to use like it's a Ewan Cameron thing from McGill University, right? Like that was one of the techniques where you have them just listening to recordings over and over and over of like, you know, things to sort of adjust their mind and their consciousness and whatever it is. And I can't believe like how like they're, you know, the I can't believe the things they still believe. Right? Like
Oh,
it's just
it's nuts. It's absolutely nuts to me, and it flies in the face of lived reality.
I had an interesting conversation with him though, and this is my theory on maybe the best way if anyone even cares about interacting with any of these people anymore. The tactic I took with him, rather than try to debate him or say why this is wrong or whatever, I was like, the tactic that they keep doing this, it doesn't work. Like when they do this, he just becomes more popular. And if your point is to, you know, defeat him or to not have him be popular or whatever, like I would try a different tactic. And I was like, if I were advising the left or the Democratic Party, this is what I would do. So rather than like trying to prove why that's wrong, I just said try a different tactic. That obviously isn't working. It didn't work. He won the popular vote and the electoral college this time, right? This is what I would do. I would go and find the people who voted for Obama and Hillary, right? And maybe even Joe Biden, but who voted for Trump this time, right? And find out what their top three issues are. And then I would just go out and find a candidate that only cares about those things. I wouldn't talk about transgenderism. I wouldn't talk about racism. I wouldn't talk about Russia. I wouldn't talk about January. I wouldn't do any of that stuff. I would just find out what those people who shifted in the last 4 to 6 years, right, from being Democrats to voting for Trump, find out what their three main issues are, not why they like Trump, not this or that, just what are their issues, and then go find a candidate that only talks about those things. Try that.
But the thing is, Emily, is that you still have access to critical thinking. You're an intelligent person. You're operating with logic, and you're also operating under the notion that they want to be successful at leadership. And I don't know that any of those things apply to them.
But this is what was interesting. My father was like not like arguing with me and not letting me finish my thought when I was trying to explain to him why Russiagate was bullshit and why, you know, the January 6th thing was not an insurrection and whatever. But as soon as I switched to the tactic of if I were advising the Democratic Party and you want to win, this is what I would do, we had a conversation. So
Amazing.
there, right? And he didn't cut me off once. He didn't tell me I was wrong or crazy or anything like that. So that was my tactic to have like a conversation that sort of got him to finally turn off whatever he had on repeat, at least for that day. And then, he put it back on the next day. But
Well done.
yeah.
So you and I mentioned this. I feel like this was the only thing I gave a shit about in the news cycle this week, and we did mention it briefly before recording our Monday show. Our normal long form words, which you can find at wordspodcast.locals.com. As long as I'm stepping on your territory this week, I'm just going to step on your territory all week.
That's all right. I asked the super chats this time, so we
Exactly. So it's Freaky Friday on Wednesday, and you can use the promo code Welcome to Words in all caps for a free month and catch yourself up to speed. But we were talking about the pardons. And so I do have some clips from Walter Kern about the pardons, but I want to pull back to the meta in terms of questioning the construct of like, why do presidential pardons even exist? Like, if we have a government structure that is allegedly based on the three branches, the legislative, the executive, and the judicial, why would we put the executive above the judicial and allow someone who has not been privy to the full trial, the evidence, to just with a sweep of his pen decide that he knows better than an actual judicial system? Like, why is that even in place?
So just so people know, the new episode will not be up till tomorrow because we don't put them out on Wednesday because Dani asks me not to. So the new episode that she was just referring to, which is titled Messy But Juicy, will be out tomorrow. So you can check that out there. But there's 97 other episodes that are already there. So yeah, I mostly agree with you. The one thing I would say is like it would be one thing if pardons were just for like criminals maybe who were, or not criminals, people who were charged with crimes, like maybe way overcharged with crimes that seem irrelevant now, like people who were charged with, crack cocaine possession in the 80s, or people who were, charged during like COINTELPRO era with, certain things like that. Like, I don't think a person should be able to pardon someone who was associated with them or like for something that just kind of happened recently. Like it seems more to like right a wrong that was like has had this long history or that happened when we understood, like if drugs are illegal now, then all the people who are in trouble for nonviolent drug things before, like they should all be let go. Or
Correct.
there's plenty of things that used to be illegal that now aren't, or that whatever it is. So to me, like maybe something like that, like I think that is a good use of it. And then I also think that like you're familiar with like jury nullification.
No.
So jury nullification is basically when the jury has the ability to throw the crime out because they just like sort of reject the premise. Like they think that the law is like a criminal, like the way that this person is charged and whatnot. Like a person could nullify, like let's say somebody ends up in jail because some tax thing, or there's even people talking about jury nullification in the Luigi Mangione case or whatever. So it's basically the jury coming together and saying, like, we reject the premise of this law or the way it's being applied. And so we are throwing this case out. It doesn't happen very frequently, but it does happen from time to time. And it is a legal part of our system. So, like, if it were to function in that way, like, I could see if something that happened more current to when the president was serving, if it was like something like that, where one could make the case, again, not having anything to do with someone related to him or one of his associates, but that, somebody got railroaded with a misuse of a law, like a misapplication or something like that. So it would function more like a jury nullification thing. Remember, the jury is sitting on a trial for someone that they don't know. So it's not like they're letting go their friends because they're whatever it is, right? I could see those uses for it, but other than that, I agree with you.
Yeah, and I'm just watching in this, like, of course I appreciate that Trump just pardoned all the J6 people, because I know journalists whose lives were completely fucked over. But I still think, like, I don't know, the jury's still out on that one. But even like his executive orders, and I've talked about this on a number of shows, of like, that's also an abuse of power. Even though I'm thrilled that he pulled us out of the WHO and that he got rid of DEI, he's not an elected authoritarian tyrant. He's still supposed to represent, like, if we're going on the fiction that is our constitutional republic, not the corrupt, corporate oligarchy that we're actually living in, it's not cool that day one he just does whatever the fuck he wants. I don't like that. Even though I like what he did, it's still an abuse.
Well, the funniest thing is to listen to people say what a criminal he is for letting all those violent criminals go free, but then defending Joe Biden preemptively pardoning, right, kind of, and saying that shouldn't be considered an admission of guilt. So the amount of mental gymnastics that, like, people have to do around all of these issues, whether they're the person doing the pardoning or the people who live in the country who think one is okay and the other isn't or whatnot. It's like none of this should exist. Everything that has been happening is evidence to me why government can never work. It can never work because once you have one person who is able to do something based on their level in the structure that everyone else is not allowed to do, it's over.
I'm coming around to your perspective more and more. And two things, and forgive me if I already said this on Monday, but like, Joe Biden has proved himself to be incapable of stringing thoughts together, remembering the day, giving a speech without shitting in his pants. Like, he's completely not there. It was only a few days ago that he made this grand announcement about, was it the 20th Amendment? That, like, didn't even happen. So why are we allowing him this one? Like, it doesn't make sense. He's so clearly inept. Why would these things be allowed to fly? They're so corrupt and offensive.
Well, it's a self-pardoning of the panel that made up the quote Biden White House. All
Correct.
These people who were actually running the country have basically just pardoned themselves.
Fauci is obviously the thorn in everyone's side because he's a mass murderer, genocidal maniac. But as I understand it, I'm sorry, allegedly, for anyone who remembers AIDS and AZT and the fact that this guy owned the patent on the drug that he gave to healthy people exhibiting no symptoms who then died from his drug. That seems a little fishy to me, but apparently he's only pardoned to 2014.
Did he have the patent on it?
Yes!
I mean, I knew he was involved with all that. I didn't realize he personally had the patent.
He personally had the AZT patent. It's so criminal and disgusting. So I'm hoping at least someone will go back and go after him for that, although it's the 80s and no one cares. I mean, everyone's already forgot about LA because everyone's more interested in, like, Melania's hat, including myself, although I do still care about LA.
Where did you, I know a lot about the
I
whole
know it
thing.
because for Plandemic 2, I wrote the
Got it.
entire Fauci dossier. He also owns 9 drug patents related to
I know,
COVID. In
I
his
know,
position, he shouldn't own a single patent. He
correct.
should
Well,
not
that
own one.
for sure, right? Yes. I just I know a lot about that HIV AIDS AZT situation, but the thread that he had a patent, I don't think I've ever heard that before. If I did, I must have forgotten. So I was just okay. I was looking to see if I can find it. I can't find it now, but I'm sure they've probably buried it. So
I mean that would not be on the web at this point. Let me see if I have
okay.
my Fauci
Okay.
notes at the ready. No, it's fucking disgusting. Those pardons are disgusting, and they shouldn't. They just shouldn't. They shouldn't stand. Biden is not in his right mind. Aside from the criminality, the corruption, preemptive pardons without a crime, like none of this is okay. And he doesn't even know what day it is. So I really hope that this is all challenged. And that's why I watch so much stuff about it to see someone's got to be saying that this
So
cannot stand.
I've seen that on Twitter, like regular people saying that there was one, actually I had one window open, I don't know where it is, where somebody asked one of the AIs if that was legal, right? And it was like, yeah, no, you can't do that. That AI said that. But the only people I've heard talking about that are people who are not part of the Trump administration. If I don't hear anybody in the Trump administration speak out against that, then I'm going to assume that they're in on it for the exact reason that I told you on Monday, which
Yep.
people can find out by watching Messy But Juicy when it posts tomorrow over on wordspodcast.locals.com. Welcome to Words. Yes. All right. Where should we start? Which clip would you like to play first?
Um, I mean, I have one, two, three, four. I have 4 on Fauci, but it might be a little bit too indulgent. So why don't we save those till the end? Because those are just more like cathartic to hear Walter Kern going off in his specific Walter Kern way. What do you want to start us off with?
All right, well, let's do, since we were on some of the health things, let's do this, right? I don't know if I'm sure people have heard that uh, they announced Project Stargate, a partnership between OpenAI and Oracle and whatever, and it's going to be, and SoftBank, and they're going to fund it with $500 billion, right? And for those people, this kind of dovetails nicely with the segment we did in our last, I don't know, 2 episodes ago on Words Podcast titled From RFK to TMZ, where I was explaining to you about Larry Ellison and Project Oracle and whatnot. So people can go check that out. But there was this news conference yesterday with Trump and Larry Ellison explaining what this was going to be. Have you seen this?
Nope.
All right, hold on. I just realized I forgot to put the thing to maximize sound. So just going to read this a little bit right here. I like this person. He posts good stuff on Twitter. Okay, MJ Truth Ultra. I don't like this. Trump asked what kind of health benefits can we expect from AI, and Larry Ellison suggests mRNA vaccines can be developed for every individual person. Right. So let's listen to this. Here we go.
I already hate him.
Thank you, Mr. President. One of the most exciting things we're working on, again, using the tools that Sam and Masa are providing, is a cancer vaccine. It's very interesting. It turns out, I'll be quick, all of our cancers, cancer tumors, little fragments of those tumors float around in your blood. So you can do early cancer detection. If you can do using AI, you can do early cancer detection with a blood test.
What is Larry Ellison's medical expertise background?
Well, he's obsessed with collecting the medical data on every citizen in the United States. That's his background.
So he's like another Bill Gates who he doesn't know anything about this industry, but we're just supposed to listen to him because he's rich.
He's obsessed. He's also obsessed with vaccines, but he's the person who started the Oracle Corporation after working in the CIA on something called Project Oracle that we were talking about before. And remember, I got into this conversation with you about all of the data collection and how I think this is partly connected to what's going on with TikTok. I have something about that as well. But this project, they're calling it Stargate, which was another CIA program that was about sort of like remote viewing and sort of dimensional portal like experience type things and whatnot. And my guess would be is that this is sort of an open admission for those who have the eyes to see and the ears to hear that a lot of this is genetic in nature. And so they want to grab everybody's genetics so they can see who has the potential for all of this. And then they can decide to block or amplify or take the drug themselves or whatever it is. And it's all under the guise of we're here to help everybody with their cancer that we created and blah, 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 blah. Right. These people who are Peter Thiel, that are obsessed with collecting data on everybody. This is all about like them feeling somebody sent me something saying the anagram of Peter Thiel is the reptile. If you put this name in the anagram solver, it comes out the reptile, right? I'm like reality does some beautiful things, and that's one of them. But they're obsessed with like man controlling everything, but doing it through technocracy, right? Like not letting nature have its sort of own way with things, with the fountain of youth, with doing all of this like weird biohacking and plasma drinking and this, that, and the other thing of, the plasma of young boys or whatever. And then like, this getting everyone else's information. I do not understand why all of these kinds of people are so obsessed with what is going on in everybody else's body, unless there's something going on in other people's bodies that they are looking for and they want for themselves. And somehow I don't think that it has to do with they're scared of getting cancer. I just don't believe that.
No, it's going to make it's just a more effective eugenics program. Everyone responds differently. Not everyone who was present for Chernobyl was killed by the fallout.
Correct.
Not everyone got the FOVID. So they want to collect our data so they could do individualized mass murder, mind control, profit, all of those things. But I am struck in this moment by how much he looks like Ben Stiller's dad.
But I think they're also obsessed with which person's genetics is the key to which Stargate. And that's what this is really about. They want the keys to all the doors in the hotel. They want the master keys.
Of course. That's why, I mean, I refuse to ever be tested for their shit. And I'm sure most of the people tracking us are doing the same. They don't get my genetics. They're looking for the real ones so they can co-opt the real ones and have no pushback to their disgustingness.
Continuing.
Okay.
And using AI to look at the blood test, you can find the cancers that are actually seriously threatening the person. So we can, again, cancer diagnosis using AI has the promise of just being a simple blood test. Then beyond that, once we gene sequence that cancer tumor, you can then vaccinate the person.
Ugh.
Design a vaccine for every individual person to vaccinate them against that cancer.
Larry!
And you can make that vaccine, that mRNA vaccine, you can make that robotically, again, using AI in about 48 hours. So imagine early cancer detection, the development of a cancer vaccine for your particular cancer aimed at you, and have that vaccine available in 48 hours. This is the promise of
your particular cancer aimed at you. The cancer we deliberately targeted you with. How about they just talk about keeping an alkaline diet and drinking lemon water every day and cutting out the sugar? Wouldn't that be a little more Occam's razor than this, Michigas?
So the main thing with this, and I like what this guy wrote here, right? Trump asked him, because he's at a press conference here with Trump, who just is agreeing to fund $500 billion to this. And this is what he's telling him. So Trump is still on the mRNA train, right? And this person is saying, I'm not naive to mRNA, naive. mRNA technology is amazing, and if properly utilized can do amazing things. But I'm sorry, we just went through a pandemic where they used mRNA vaccines to literally disarm immune systems, right?
And create cancer, create
So,
turbo cancers.
Like, this is, this is something that Trump thinks is good to do on day 1 or 2 is not good.
No.
Not good. And then since we're on Larry Ellison and this sort of thread, can Elon Musk actually save TikTok from US ban? Elon Musk's potential takeover of TikTok's US operation, remember, in RFK, TMZ to RFK, when I was talking about Larry Ellison Project Oracle, we were talking about the fact that Oracle stores the data from Project Texas, which is TikTok storing all information on American users in Texas through Oracle. And Oracle was one of the people who funded Elon Musk to buy Twitter.
Correct.
Right. And so now we understand. So he's going to buy TikTok. Right. So it's basically that all that data that Larry Ellison had collected, Larry Ellison, who's now also funding Twitter, right? Elon Musk is going to buy it. Now, the interesting part about this is supposedly Elon Musk and Sam Altman are in a dispute over AI, but Larry Ellison seems to be working with or maybe controlling and manipulating each of them, right?
Yep.
So what did they say, that the banking cartels or the United States or whatever, the Operation Paperclip, Nazi, whatever it is, they fund both sides of the war, right? They funded the Allies and they funded the Nazis. They fund both sides of every war. And Larry Ellison seems to be that kind of cat, right?
Oh, hell yeah.
So
I mean, you and I talked about this before the election. As much as I don't, and please, people watching, do not get your panties in a bunch. I am not a Trump supporter. I'm not pro-Trump. But for the people who are like, lesser of two evils, it's the same thing. I don't think it's the same. I think there has been an honest transfer of power, but these fucktards, the biometric security surveillance tyrants, were going to get in through the left or through the right. They've played this game very well. So that piece was seemingly unavoidable in, our so-called election.
yeah. All right. The only thing that makes it on some levels not the better option is that whenever somebody feels like they just got saved from a worse option, they tend to go to sleep for a while, right? So there's like a lot of people who are like, phew, Trump got in, our work is done for a while, we can relax. And here we are with mRNA on day 2.
Oh, for sure. But I think that's the nature of the beast for anyone who's buying into the binary,
Correct.
to the sides. Like, they're already under that mind control. And they weren't seeing that because most of these people don't understand the construct. They don't understand the big picture. They don't understand the larger agenda. They're just like, yay, RFK's in the government. We're saved from fluoride.
I don't think he hasn't been approved yet, has he?
I'm not tracking. I don't care.
Neither am I. I don't think it's weird. Like, we were hearing all this stuff about his appointees a few weeks ago, but since he's been in, we haven't actually heard anything about whether they've been confirmed or not confirmed. It's very interesting.
I haven't heard that, but I have seen, because of the people who show up in my social media feed, that he had his own special inauguration party in DC with all of the so-called health freedom people and conspiracy theorists. So he's obviously
Was it sponsored by the wellness company?
Probably.
All right, your turn. What you got?
Okay, so help me pick what we want to do, because it's Aquarius season. So I can do what Doge actually means, the Bitcoin switcheroo, or my 9,000 Walter Kern clips.
Well, let's do what Doge actually means.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Okay, give me a second to pull it up.
And thank you, Leah, for the super chat.
Thank
Much
you, Leah.
appreciated.
Super sweet of you.
Leah, I had a little like secret squirrel glass bead meeting recording the other day, and Leah showed up, and she makes jewelry and tensor rings and stuff, and she had on like the thing she wears on her head while she's making them, and it was like, are you going spelunking or what's happening? Right? I loved it. It was a good look, right?
Awesome.
I loved it.
May I please have screen share?
Oh, yes. Yes, we live in a permission society.
Yes.
Yes, there we go. And Dani has just asked permission.
Okay, I'm working it out. Sharing sound. Here we go.
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like it would be good to watch the whole clip. It's 4 minutes, 21 seconds, but we'll see, and the gist might come sooner. All right, fair use.
Okay, so let's turn to Doge. And this is one that you and I want to talk a lot about. I want to talk a lot about it. The first reason is part of the financial coup is the central bankers getting control of fiscal policy.
Yes.
And part of getting control of fiscal policy is basically taxation without representation. They control your bank account. But the other part is getting control of the legal and regulatory infrastructure and enforcement. In other words, instead of Congress telling the civil service what to do, you know, the central bankers tell contractors, or the intelligence agencies tell the contractors what to do from behind the scenes.
Yes.
And we know, as we've swung in, you know, essentially once they started using corporations to do highly classified and secret stuff, you know, that's the rise of the deep state. It's the rise of private parties taking control of government operations, which means the central bankers or the central bankers working through the intelligence agencies control from behind the scenes. Okay. And to do that, you got to keep the money secret, which is what FASB 56 is all about. But, you know, we now have the largest, or one of the largest, government contractors in the world, depending on how you define it. Elon Musk has two companies. One is a government contractor that's building the world's largest surveillance satellite system, from which there's no escape. You know, they can beam Wi-Fi to wherever you are and connect you wherever you are. That's number one. But number two, his car company, Tesla, is the largest receiver of subsidies from the Chinese government for electric vehicles. So he's an equal opportunity contractor, government contractor, if you will. He plays all sides. Anyway, so we have a guy who's one of the largest government contractors in the world, and we're inviting him to come in on behalf of big tech to re-engineer the federal government.
Right.
Okay. Now, let's start by you explaining to this wonderful audience what the word Doge means.
Oh, listen, when I first heard that this was what they were going to call their streamlining government operations committee or whatever it is, I thought you couldn't be more obvious in the messages you were sending, because the word Doge is Venetian Italian for the ruler of the most serene Republic of Venice. So in other words, you know, think of Mussolini, Il Duce. Well, the Italian word duce is the same root word as doge. It means duke. So literally, we're bringing in a new kind of nobility that's the Venetian nobility. And here's the clincher for me. If you go to Venice, you can go to the Doge's palace in Venice, and around the palace, you're going to see these little lions' mouths. And there's a little plaque that is either over or somewhere near these lions' mouths. And it says in Italian, for secret denunciations. All you had to do was drop a piece of paper in the lion's mouth to denounce someone that you didn't like secretly to the government, and they would be hauled before the Council of 10. Now, you want to talk about oligarchical totalitarianism? There you go.
I think that's the basic gist.
Yeah, yeah. I watched a really good video this week about technocracy and how Elon Musk is connected to it. And it's actually his grandfather, whose name I think was Joshua Handelman, who he started a company called Technocracy Inc. in Canada in the mid 20th century. And it sort of evolved over time in terms of how it related to like traditional ideas of politics, like right and left and populist or not, or whatever it is. But I mean, this is something sort of baked into his family lineage. And of course, technocracy meaning rule by experts with limitations on freedoms for everybody who is not those experts, but with the promise that don't worry, it'll be worth it because you're going to have prosperity. So we're back once again to like Peter Thiel's, like, we'll pay people to give us their information and then we'll use that, right, type of thing. So this is, and it's funny because I had heard the two guys on the Matt Kim podcast talking about, but they were saying the name wrong. They were saying the Haldemans. They were saying that Elon Musk was a Haldeman. And when I was looking that up, I couldn't find anything. But then I found this great video on technocracy, and it's Handelman, I think is how you say it. And it's a very interesting sort of history. The guy who made the video, I'm thinking about maybe inviting him on my show or something like that. He has a whole series on technocracy that's kind of interesting.
Nice.
But yeah, so that's exactly what it is, right? It's just basically we want rule by experts, but we don't think the people will go there if we enforce it as a government thing. So we'll do this pretend thing that will actually make them like it and want it. And also think about what X is. It's kind of like that place where you can go and say anything you want about anyone you want. And Elon Musk uses it as his like personal place. Like, if I like what you say, I'm going to boost it. If I dislike what you say, I'm going to shadow ban you, or I'm going to put limits on your account. It's the exact same thing like the lion's mouth with people dropping notes and whatever it is. Did you also hear that Vivek Ramaswamy is out at Doge?
So I heard that because he's running for governor.
First, he tried to get appointed senator in Ohio to take over JD Vance's seat, but I guess he didn't get appointed by the governor. So now he's running for governor. But how long did he last at the Doge? Like, I mean, I'm sure it was just too many egos in the room or whatever it was. Or maybe people figured out that Vivek is not as smart as he likes people to think he is, and whatnot. But I thought that was kind of interesting that he didn't even make it to Inauguration Day.
Oh, for sure. I think it was way too many egos for all of those people to last. I also think what's interesting about what Joseph Farrell shared, and I do really consider him a national treasure in terms of like his depth of knowledge, is the snitch culture and how this switcheroo that just happened at Facebook, where it's like, oh, we're not going to be fact checking anymore, and same with what's happening with Elon Musk, but it's like, oh, but you will be using the things that we say against us when the social credit system is implemented to figure out who's going to be rounded up and put in the FEMA camps and whatnot.
Correct. It's right. It's like this open snitching culture now. It's like the brown shirts.
Correct.
Right. Yeah. Okay. All right, so let's go. Did you have another Catherine Austin Fitts clip while we're there?
I do have one more Catherine Austin Fitts on the Bitcoin switcheroo, so let me just pull that up. And thank you so much, Jim, for your super chat / consistent support. It's so
thank you, Jim.
Very much appreciated.
Thank
okay,
you.
Sharing. Sounding, moving on. Thank you, Catherine and Joseph Farrell again. Fair use.
I still have a small position. It probably still can go up some, but it's going to be a volatile, bumpy ride. And I had a dual reason. One was this sort of, ideological, decentralized future of computing world that I really do believe in, really believe would be better. And it seemed like the perfect vehicle for that for such a long time, and I am just much less convinced of that. And so
Interesting.
So maybe Larry Fink with the BlackRock ETF surrendered to the forces, the anti-ESG forces, or maybe it's more like Bitcoin's been co-opted by them, and I worry it was more the latter.
So BlackRock's playing this 3-minute video about Bitcoin that it made, but it's subject to U.S. securities laws, and so it's got to disclose this. No, just look at this. It's just unbelievable. So this is in the middle of their video. They don't even say this. It's just, it goes by very quickly. There is no guarantee that Bitcoin's 21 million supply cap will not be changed.
No, you don't say.
Okay, so here's the thing. I'll just say this not in my elegant financial language, but the whole thing was a ruse.
Yes.
The 21 million cap
Yes.
is total BS.
It's one thing to think that gold has some marvelous store of value, because man has no way of inventing more gold or getting it very easily. So it has the advantage of rarity. Believe me, man is capable of somehow creating more Bitcoin. They tell you they're not going to do it, but they mean they're not going to do it unless they want to. That's what they mean when they say they're not going to do it. Yeah. If they hear their rules and they can't do it, don't believe them. When there's enough incentive, bad things will happen.
Here's the funny thing. If you don't take it up, the miners don't have a way of making enough money to sustain the infrastructure, which is a real problem, because it turns out the infrastructure is a complete energy hog. I want you to listen to this elegant Yahoo Finance description. The shares, meaning the shares of the Bitcoin ETF, are intended to constitute. They don't say are, they say are intended.
Mhm.
Okay, note that difference. Are intended to constitute a simple means of making an investment similar to an investment in Bitcoin. Okay, so they don't say you're investing in Bitcoin, and they don't say that it does constitute. They say it's intended to constitute, and it's similar. Okay, rather than by acquiring, holding, and trading Bitcoin directly on a peer-to-peer or other basis or via a digital asset exchange. Now, here's how BlackRock describes their investment objective on the ETF website. Quote, the iShares Bitcoin Trust ETF seeks to reflect. It seeks, it doesn't reflect, it seeks to reflect.
Seeks to reflect.
Okay. It seeks to reflect generally the performance of the price of Bitcoin.
So fucking lame.
Every like, if I ever sign a contract again with anybody about anything, like, right, I'm gonna word it like that.
Oh, wow. That's why for the past couple years, when I sign any contract, I've got a red pen at the ready, and I'm like, nope. I cross out all that wishy-washy
Right.
bullshit language that says nothing.
Right. Totally. I went through this with my job, and I never ended up signing the contract, right? That, like, it was crazy. I'm like, I can either like cross out every line on here, or I can just write what I'm willing to say, right? And I'm willing, if it's true, if it's something I'm willing to do, then I'm willing to write that I'll do it. So, like, I'm not going to tell people your secrets, Emily Moyer, right? Like, it's that simple, right?
I love that. I really hope that's what you turned in.
I did. And they were like, we really need you to sign the other thing. And I never signed it.
Did you write it in crayon?
With my left hand. Yeah. Yeah.
So the whole Bitcoin scam is coming to a head. All that artificial scarcity seems to be tossed out the window.
Right.
Thank you, BlackRock.
Yeah. I mean, I just, I don't have strong feelings for or against anything. I just see the entire financial system as not different than going to Vegas. Like, it's gambling, and there's not like some moral position or some not moral position. It's just like, right. So, but this idea,
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I don't think there's a financial solution to the problems that we have. Obviously, as the world is constructed right now, we need to have money to survive. And so each person has to figure out for themselves how they're going to manage that situation. But there's not like the good, obvious answer. Everything is a fucking casino.
So this was like some of the earliest shows we did was you, Randy, Cliff High, and me jumping on the Bitcoin thing, which is why I'm appreciating where we've come now. I do think there's a
By the way,
solution.
when she says jumping on it, she doesn't mean we were on the bandwagon. She means we were kind of jumping all over, like attacking at it. Yes.
Yeah, I was the one who Randy and Emily brought on early days to like question Cliff on this like magical panacea to every financial woe called Bitcoin. And I
Right.
played the moron slash probably was the moron in that conversation, trying to understand blockchain, Bitcoin, whatnot. So a couple things. One, I do see a solution to our financial woes. Get rid of usury, get rid of a debt-based economy, take us back to the gold standard, start paying people enough to actually pay for things, not debt, not make payments, like get rid of all that bullshit. A fiat currency, and this is what we were talking about with Cliff High all those years ago, I don't care if it's digital fiat or cash fiat, is not the solution. And what I've been saying from the get-go about Bitcoin is like, why are we giving our allegiance to yet another fiat currency, but a fiat currency that's even more abstract
Right.
and more fictional and based on even less? And I understand that people got in early and made a lot of money based on the old paradigm way of buying low, hoarding, waiting for some emergency, but that's the old paradigm greed bullshit where money isn't circulating throughout the community. So I'm not begrudging people the profits they made off of early Bitcoin, but don't think you were part of some new financial paradigm that was serving the greatest good. You were serving yourself. And
Right.
now people
Yeah.
are being bit in the ass because this fake scarcity around this fake fiat is now being called on its bullshit.
Yeah, no, right? Like, just own it. Just be like, I saw an opportunity, I got in on it, it benefited me or whatever, but that's different than like trying to change the world. No, so what you're saying, I agree with. I just did what you said about you see a financial solution. It's don't do usury, don't do interest and debt. To me, I see those more as moral issues, that if we solve those moral problems, then we won't have to have financial solutions to those problems. If we're a moral people, then our finances will follow suit.
1,000 trillion%.
Yeah. Like we have a moral, like the biggest thing is like a self-reflection, a choosing to change yourself and to like make adjustments in areas that, you know, all that kind of thing. It's a moral and behavioral change problem that people need to make, not just shifting our financial institutions, right? Because then we'll just find some other fucking scam to pull.
Correct.
Okay. Speaking of scams, shall we go to the State Department?
Yes.
Let's go to the State Department. All right.
And thank you, Christine, for your generous super chat. Thank you, thank you,
Thank you, Christine. All right, let's do this. What is it? What's happening? Why isn't it letting me do that? Okay, hold on. Something weird is happening here. It doesn't seem to want to optimize for, let's see. Why is this not doing it? Share sound, optimize for video. For some reason, it won't let me hopefully this will work. Okay, here we go. Fair use, and our good friend Max Blumenthal here.
300 reporters in Gaza were on the receiving end of your bombs. Why did you keep the bombs flowing when we had a deal in May? We all knew we had a deal. Everyone in this room knows we had a deal, Tony, and you kept the bombs flowing. Why did you sacrifice the rules-based order on the mantle of your commitment to Zionism? Why did you allow my friends to be massacred? Why did you allow my friends' homes in Gaza to be destroyed when we had a deal in May? You helped destroy our religion, Judaism, by associating it with fascism. You waved the white flag before Netanyahu.
We'll have the time to take questions at the end.
You waved the white flag before Israeli fascism.
We'll have the time to take questions
Your
at the end.
father-in-law was an Israel lobbyist. Your grandfather was an Israel lobbyist. Are you compromised by Israel? Why did you allow the Holocaust of our time to happen? How does it feel to have your legacy be genocide? How does it feel to have your legacy be genocide? You too, Matt. You smirk through the whole thing every day. You smirk through a genocide.
Thank you.
Take some balls to do that. He just went there and read off his whole list. But
Good for him.
he was 2 or 3 people. Here we go. Can you see this?
Yep.
Okay. Here's our good friend Sam Husseini here, who went up to even max. Here we go.
People. You pontificate about a free press. You pontificate about a free press. You are hurting me. You are hurting me. You are hurting me. I'm asking questions after being told by Matt Miller that he will not answer my questions until I'm asking questions. Wasn't the point of the May 31st statement to block the ICJ orders? You blocked the ICJ orders.
Please sir, respect the process.
Respect the process. Respect the process. While everybody from Amnesty International, to the ICJ is saying that Israel's doing genocide and extermination, and you're telling me to respect the process. Criminal. Why aren't you in the Hague? Why aren't 2 or 3 people?
Right?
Yes.
So on Anthony Blinken's last day, when he was basically, giving a speech and thanking God for his Emmy and all of that kind of shit, the two of them, I think they must have planned it together, and they just one after the other went in there and just firebombed, dude. It takes balls to do that. Yeah.
Takes major balls.
Yeah.
Good for them.
Yep. Good on
And
them.
shame on those people who carried him out.
Well, what was crazy, there was one person who is a mainstream media reporter who wasn't there, but who saw this and said, I'm disgusted that not one reporter that I knew that was sitting in that building stood up and said anything in defense of these people. Right.
And
I don't agree with them, but that is wrong. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Get off your knees, people.
I mean, that is like third world dictatorship stuff right there.
And it's allegedly a constitutional republic protected by freedom of speech. We just watched that happen.
But remember how when Trump used to insult Jim Acosta at press conferences, they would say that Trump was threatening the freedom of the press? Remember that?
Yeah.
Right. So to threaten to just call Jim Acosta a name is threatening the free press, but to do that is perfectly acceptable.
It also offends me in terms of just respect for our elders, that all those young men would manhandle him when he's saying you're hurting me. It's why I cannot even handle TSA, because when I see elders at the airport being forced to take off their shoes, that's when I fucking lose it.
I had an somewhat frustrating but interesting experience at the TSA on the way here, right? So I got to the airport at 5:30 in the morning, and it was way busier than it ever is, right? And I figured it's because there's about to be a freeze, so everybody's trying to get out before the freeze. But then I waited in line forever in TSA, and when I got up there, it was half of the lanes were closed. There was they just decided to take half, right? It was usually they're all open. So that was what was causing the line. And then, I requested my opt-out pat down, and I had to wait more than 30 minutes for it. But they were letting every person under 10 and over 55 not go through the naked body scanners. Right? The guy was how old are you? Over here. How old are you? Over there. Right? It was kind of interesting. So they were not abusing the elders, or the youngers, just everyone in between.
It's just such bad, pathetic theater. And honestly, unless Trump does away with the Patriot Act, I don't really give a fuck about whatever he's doing. Although, getting rid of the DEI stuff is amusing.
Totally. We can enjoy the amusement and go, it's just it's still pointless, all of the other stuff, right?
Although Jimmy Dore clearly listens to our show because he's jumped on the get rid of the Patriot Act bandwagon.
He definitely does.
Yeah.
Okay. You're up.
Okay.
I thought we've now been through all of my clips and videos and everything, so it's all you now, dear.
I like that you said Europe as though you're referencing the continent. Just like I can no longer hear the words "is real" without hearing Israel.
I was thinking more of baseball or something like that, but I like the country reference it as well. Europe. I didn't think about that.
Okay. All right. So as I said, I have too many because Walter Kern is speaking for all of us in this. So let me just.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Matt Moon. Appreciate it.
His movement.
I also I just notice how much Matt defers to Walter and is always apologizing. And I want Matt to just like claim his authority and his voice, and without like doing that kind of fawning, inferior thing that he does. I love Matt. He's very smart, but I'd like him to like step into a place of equality with Walter. I just think it would be more interesting.
Agreed.
All right, here goes, fair use.
California apparently accusing them of fraud in this election. But the big stunner of the day is the flurry of last-minute pardons from Joe Biden. And these are preemptive pardons, and there's a whole bunch of them. We can just take a look at a couple. If we can see, let's just see the like 12, 13 here. We got the family pardons. This was the last one. It's a little bit like the MLB trading deadline, which is 3 p.m. every Eastern every year. But some trades come in at 3:08 or 3:10 because the paperwork is being processed. That's what today felt like. There were still pardons coming in right till the very last minute of the presidency. And so this is the Biden family pardon. There's another one from Mark Milley. You can see here. If you look, and then the two really controversial ones are the J6. Here, Anthony Fauci. No, well, yeah, we'll get to. If you see that date there at the very middle. For any offenses against the United States which he may have committed or taken part in during the period from January 1st, 2014. That date is very significant. Why backdate it that much? We're going to get to that. And then I guess the last one is the J6 committee. And this
the J6 committee and its staffers and whoever can claim to be covered by this.
Yeah, and really oddly, the witnesses and the police officers from the DC Metropolitan Police Department or the U.S. Capitol Police who testified before the Select Committee. That is a very strange inclusion.
Well, it's for perjury.
Well, yes, right, yes, okay.
That's what it's for. Matt, I'm sitting here acting like I'm a normal person right now. I'm going to tell you. I have never been so disgusted with my American government as I am right now. To me, this was the day the fucking music died. These people commenced or how can I put it? Consummated decades of corruption in a way that was absolutely breathtaking by pardoning himself at the same moment the next president was getting up to speak.
Did he actually pardon himself?
Well, he pardoned his family, whatever.
His family,
everybody around him, everybody who could touch him, everybody who could testify.
No.
And this whole bullshit pipe dream of Americans that this gives them no coverage under the Fifth Amendment, so that they're all going to sing and tell the truth, and we're going to have reconciliation and all that. That is good old American smoking the pipe. The fact is that we just saw a gigantic mafia operation pull down a veil over itself after the press and every other institutional interest in America has spent the entire time, last 4 years, and God knows how long before that, covering for them.
Yeah,
I felt like I was watching the death of the Republic in that Capitol Rotunda, and the gall to do it. And conceal it behind the next president's inaugural address. My God.
Yeah, it's remarkable.
I love him.
Yeah, I mean, you know me. Before we came on air, Dani was trying to insert herself into my relationship with Walter Kern.
It's true. I'm like, we can share him. So just a few more choice words from Walter, just because it feels so good to hear him say it. A couple more. Here we go.
Doing a very tricky thing on MSNBC and on CNN. They're saying things like, we've known for a while that these were coming. Or
I heard that bullshit too.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be eloquent today. this was the utter demise of the formerly mainstream media. I don't want to ever see them again. If they walk up to me at a party, I will not be polite to them. They betrayed the freaking profession that I gave my life to, betrayed it consistently, systematically, in a partisan and completely determined and programmatic fashion. They did it in the
consciously,
wittingly, knowing that they were covered, knowing that that the power would, if they did anything wrong, come out and pardon them. And they did it not only in moral and legal terms, they did it in practical terms. They brought us to the brink of World War III with a senile, incompetent president who could not have possibly been in control of his decision making. They hid the nature of American government from the American people. They went to parties. They talked behind our backs about this. I watched it happen the whole time. I've watched this generation of journalists grow up for decades. They are utter careerist, status hungry, psycho fools who have gotten a little bit of money and a little bit of fame in return for betraying not only their country, but their the entire tradition of truth telling, which they have veiled and draped themselves in, telling us
that is extremely tough to take. Part.
They're afraid of going to camps. Democracy dies in darkness. All the news that's fit to print. They jerked each other off with fucking awards.
So
they shoved Pulitzers up their asses. They fucking made a spectacle of something that will never be restored.
Oh, Walter.
It will never be restored, and it can't be, and it should not be. And they sit there today, sitting in judgment on Hitler, the person that weeks ago they were telling us was the beginning of the fascist reign of the American post-democratic system. They should be swept away. They should be boycotted. They should be shunned socially. They should be harassed on social media in the most polite manner possible, and the whole thing has to go, because it led us to a pass which almost ended us. And they practiced it.
And by the way, and them and their. I mean, look.
Okay, there's so many clips. I just recommend that people watch the whole thing because he just rips, and it feels so good to hear someone say it.
He said it.
He said it.
He said it. I like that. Status hungry psycho fools. Me think that make a good title for the show.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Let's go to the sandbox and throw mud balls with the kids. Everybody, you know what time it is. Questions, comments.
I'd also like everyone to notice
concerns.
On that short clip we played, how many beautiful yellow super chats were showing up. If you feel like following suit, that would be wonderful and much appreciated.
All right, so all capital letters, lay them on us. I'm in the
Thank you, Jason Lightfoot.
And Marsha.
Thank you, Marsha. Thank you, and thank you for the birthday wish. Yes, I want to kiss Walter. 100%.
He's very sexy. He's very sexy. All right, let's see. Maybe is my is my thing working? I'm trying to see when the last. Sometimes at the end of the show.
Oh yeah, mine froze up too.
My chat room stops working.
That's so weird how it always happens at the end of the show that they
after you type something so I can see if a new thing pops up.
I'm
refreshing. Say something silly. Say something silly. Yeah, I'm not seeing any typing action going on in the chat room, and I'm wondering if it's because my thing is frozen.
Mine's frozen, but sometimes if I open up a new browser during our show, the things we do to get around the fucktards, man.
I'm gonna try refreshing the page and see if it'll do it.
Okay, here we go. I got it on
I'm not seeing any typing action going on in the.
What's Walter's last name? Kern. Kirn.
Oh yeah.
Dr. Laura. Sometimes if I open up a new browser. Sorry, I forgot to mute.
Oh my God. Okay, so my page refreshed, but it's showing like a blurry screen and no words on it.
Thank you, Nikki, for another generous super chat.
Understandable.
Hillary would like to know any thoughts on Ross Ulbricht being pardoned?
Ross
Longtime-
Ulbricht?
Yeah, Ulbricht.
Ross Ulbricht. Well, it's just this, that he said he would, and because he said he would, he should, and he did, so that's good. I can't speak to the nature of what if there was some further inspiration for doing it other than to just try and get libertarian votes. I don't know if he thinks that it's actually, I don't know what the like moral underpinnings of it were in terms of whether he thinks Ross was wrongly imprisoned. I don't know. Sounds like he made a deal and he kept his end of the deal. So that's always good. That's better than saying you're going to do something and then not doing it. But do I think that it was a good idea for the Libertarian Party to cut that deal? I don't know, selling out some of your other moral issues, but if you're not going to win anyway and you have a chance to save one, it's a complex issue. But mostly I think that if you promise a group of people that you're going to do something in exchange for them doing something for you and you do that, that's better than if you don't do that. But that's pretty much all you can say. I can say for me. Sorry. What about you?
I don't know anything about it.
You know anything about it?
Nope.
Ross Ulbricht is the person who started the Silk Road and then basically got 2 life sentences plus 40 years because they started like charging him with crimes that anyone else committed on that website type of thing, or they tried to do that. And they even tried to say that he put out like a hit on somebody, but there was like, they never ended up convicting him, or even in the end, like the charge, they dropped that charge before they sentenced him for whatever it was. But you know, he's a libertarian who believes people should be able to trade freely outside of government controls. And so he was allowing that on the Silk Road. And you know,
Just like Peter Thiel.
is a little different than that. But the government wants to be in control of the drug trade. They don't want free and open drug trade on the internet. They want to make their cut of it. And I think he was not giving them their cut. So, you know, it's a complex situation. And I don't know like how many layers deep the chess playing goes with this thing. But, you know, yeah, that's pretty much all I can say about it. I'm not an expert on Ross Ulbricht. And I completely can't get the chat. I'm going to try closing.
So Walter Kern mentioned in this particular episode that I've played some clips from, the utter insulting fuck you of Biden layering in legit ethical pardons on top of his bullshit pardons, as a smokescreen, and how that was just like
Leonard Peltier, like the Leonard Peltier thing.
Yeah, that was the one that he specifically talked about.
Who should have been pardoned by like the past 5 presidents, but wasn't. Yeah. Thank you, Francesca. Thank you,
Francesca. I'm kicked out of writing in the chat now that I'm on a different browser, and I love you and thank you.
And thank you, Nikki, Jason. Okay, now I'm seeing all these other ones. Thank you. All right, let's see. One of Trump's platforms was not taxing, tips.
Tips should not be taxed.
Should not be taxed. I mean, as a person who worked in the service industry most of my life, like that would make a huge amount of difference for a lot of people, right? Especially now that most transactions are not done in cash, so you can't just keep your cash tips and not report them anymore.
This is part of what infuriates me about the abuse of tipping we see coming from like baristas and everyone else is, as a waiter, I was always taxed on a percentage of my sales, but those people are not being taxed. And yesterday I went to one of the hot springs here, and my friend and I rented a private tub, right? So we have to be there at a specific amount of time. So we were there on time. And then the young, like probably vax injured somewhere on the spectrum girl with like the 10,000 pounds of mascara on her 3-foot snuffleupagus eyelashes was checking us in at like turtle snail pace. And when he went to pay, she goes, "Would you like to leave a gratuity?" Why? You're doing your job badly and slowly, you're not in a gratuity position. And even if you were, it is so tacky and bad form to ask. It was enough that my friend is like, I'm never going back there.
Yeah, well, I mean, basically a lot of people have, a lot of companies have figured out that they can pay people less if they allow them to ask for tips in non-tipped positions, right? And because people have become
But that's called a tip jar. You don't say it out of your mouth. That's like, were you raised by wolves in a gutter?
All right, so somebody asked, Hillary not Hillary. Janet asked, do you know anything about the Oracle class action case? And I didn't, so I just looked it up. And Oracle has been involved in multiple class action lawsuits, including a privacy lawsuit and a securities class action lawsuit. Some of these have just been settled back in November of last year. The privacy lawsuit, Oracle settled the class action $115 million lawsuit, alleged that Oracle collected personal information from customers and employees and sold it to third parties without consent. The lawsuit also claims Oracle violated federal and state privacy laws. There was also a securities class action lawsuit. Oracle settled a securities suit agreeing to implement corporate governance measures to improve information sharing with public investors. I don't know about that. Then there's a bunch of them here, so I'm not sure which one you're talking about, Janet. Let me know and enlighten me as to what I should know. But yeah, these people don't care about privacy at all. They think privacy is so last year, right? Yeah, Larry Ellison bothers me on a level, like, I mean, Peter Thiel really does too, but I'm more like uniquely familiar with Larry Ellison because I've been really tracking him a lot longer than I've been tracking Peter Thiel. And I find him to be one of the most disturbing human beings I've ever, taken my research eye to.
Okay, I'm going to have to disagree with you. There's no way he's human being. There's no way. Just that little clip that we saw.
I agree with you.
Not a human.
Correct, but they're presenting like we're supposed to think he is. His face looks like plastic and rubber.
Yes.
He owns this. He owns an island in Hawaii. He owns Lanai, right?
He owns Lanai?
Owns Lanai, and he has this resort called, I think it's called Sensei. And it's like, looks like, yeah, here it is. Okay, Sensei Lanai, Porcupine Creek. He owns like 90% of Lanai, including all of the newspapers and publications on the island, so nobody can report about what he's doing. But he owns this place called Sensei, right? That is like, this sort of natural habitat that looks divine. But this is a person completely obsessed with vaccines, and you have to have your COVID vaccine and all of that kind of stuff to go there.
Go back down to I want to see if we know anyone who's on his staff. Head of people operations? What the fuck is
people?
What is people? Scroll back up. The Poochie chick, vice president and head of people operations? What is people operations?
If they're not people, then they find people to be something you have to operate on. But these people don't look like people to me, right? They look like Westworld robots.
Totally. Just like Peter Thiel.
This looks like you never watch Westworld, did you?
I gave it 15 minutes and then it was was it on the plane where like faces were coming off or something? Or that was another thing you told me to watch?
I don't know. Yeah.
As soon as it gets creepy, I'm out.
So at a certain point, some of the robots escape from the park, only to discover that next door to the park is another park that has other robots playing other roles, and then next to that another one, like there's a Shogun. The main one is the Wild West Park, and then there's like a Shogun Park, and there's like another one over here, and that place looks like the Tropical Island Paradise Park or whatever it is, right?
Yep.
Yeah, he's super disturbing. Let me see. I'll go back and see if Janet said anything back to.
So Matt and Walter got in a fight about the big tech bros, and it actually got a little bit heated.
Oh, I want to see that. Do you have that?
I do have that.
Well,
and it's gonna bum out the Walter Kern crush because he takes a very bizarre tack on it.
All right, nobody's perfect, so let's see it anyway.
Of course. All right, let me pull it up because I got rid of it. So just give me a sec.
But he also thinks Tulsi Gabbard is like wonderful and sincere. So
we all have our blind spots.
Totally. Rat totally looked like a droid during the inauguration. Well, there was somebody who had a picture of him saying that he looked like he was tripping balls.
Who did?
There was a picture of Elon Musk during the inauguration where he looked like he was tripping balls.
Oh, I bet he was.
Yeah. Can you think of any worse way to waste a trip than at a presidential inauguration? And can you, like, sometimes when you're tripping, you see like people's like extra characters and parts that you don't normally see. Can you imagine the amount of like horns and pointy ears and like reptile scales and stuff that you
But I mean, could you handle a presidential inauguration sober? That also sounds like hell.
There's no way. There's no. I mean,
It's
maybe
a lose.
Maybe with a lot of whiskey. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. I have it queued up.
All right.
On a different browser. Here we go. Fair use.
Maybe wrap up a little bit. Like, okay, so the big stories today are, I think these pardons are an explosive story. Unfortunately, they're not going to be followed up nearly as much as they should be. But then in terms of the inauguration, they're, as you see, they're leading the top of the hour with the billionaire oligarchy message. I do think it's a big political mistake by Trump. I have to admit, like,
to do what?
To be so publicly associated, especially with Bezos and Zuckerberg.
Couldn't agree. Couldn't disagree more.
Really?
Could not disagree more. Matt, I don't know where some people live, but in the rest of America, these people are looked at as hopeful signs that intractable problems that have not been addressed by the biggest government in world history and the most indebted bureaucracy in world history might actually have solutions that will allow us to survive the next decade. Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Mark Zuckerberg, whatever else they may be, are looked at by America as harbingers of the possibility that our multi-trillion-dollar indebted do-nothing government that can't even, as Trump said today and is true, rescue the people in a flood zone in North Carolina might be able by some other means powered by the sort of savvy of great capitalists solve the basic problems of governance without going broke and leaving us in complete despair and destruction. They put those people up there not because they want to show oligarchical strength, but because they want the 24-year-old kid out somewhere to think there's fucking hope. That's why. That's why. Okay. And they're going to love him for it, because no matter what Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, or whatever do, they got rockets that go into space. And what does Biden have? A family that participates in some kind of skimming operation for which they've had to pardon themselves.
Okay, I'm going to retort.
They keep going on this.
I remember being on the campaign trail in Iowa.
They continue to disagree on this for a while. I think it's interesting to hear Walter Kern say the savvy of great capitalists. I'm like,
Well, I mean, so two things. Like, yeah, I think he kind of has it wrong, but I did get that he's sort of separating whatever he or others might actually think about them from sort of like what it looks like to like your basic everyday person.
Yep.
But I just think it's funny that he thinks that they have rockets that go to space.
He believes in space.
Oh. All right, guys, I think we have reached the end. We've been we've went a little over tonight, but I've had fun. Where did my thing go? Hanging with all of you. So we're gonna do the going once, going twice, going 3 times, and then we're gonna wait 30 seconds because we realize there's a delay to see if anybody has one last zinger to toss at us to
Stocko, I don't even know how to say this. Stocko
Stock
whatever,
Apocalypse.
likes Peter Thiel.
You actually like Peter. All right.
Well, we disagree, but you're welcome
Wait,
here.
look at what he says is I actually like Peter. Wish he wasn't a supervillain.
So what do you like about
actually
him?
been on the MBTA though. He might be rich, but he has the mannerisms of a regular Joe. What's the like part? Like, to me, he's the most unimpressive lizard that I've ever seen, and there's something like deeply disturbing about him to me.
Like he can't say a sentence without stammering for simple single syllable words.
Yeah, I don't know. I've not ever met anybody who isn't in business with Peter Thiel that is willing to say that they like Peter Thiel. But if you can make a good case, then I'm willing to listen. All right. Let's see.
I think we gave people 30 seconds and we've gotten
we're good. Guys, thanks for hanging extra long with us tonight. And go check out Regular Words Podcast tomorrow, and we will all see you here. We will see you all here, same damn time, same damn place next week. Have a good one.
Bye, guys.
Bye.